I noticed the sound before anything else. A single fingernail tapping glass. Not impatient, not loud. Measured, repeated. Out of place, in a public terminal, where noise usually arrives all at once. It came from the Royal Class counter at JFK Terminal 4. I was standing just behind the velvet rope, close enough to see the counter surface, far enough to be ignored. The kind of position witnesses occupy when nothing officially involves them. The line had stalled, but no one complained. When lines slow at places like this, people assume it's deliberate. At the counter stood a black woman, mid-40s, posture upright, shoulders relaxed. Her boarding pass rested between two fingers. Her passport stayed in her coat pocket. I caught her name when the printer behind the counter briefly flashed a queue update. Evelyn Carter. The screen went dark again before anyone else noticed. Nothing about her announced urgency. Nothing asked for attention. Her coat was dark and plain. Her bag showed wear at the corners, the kind that comes from use rather than neglect. No logos. No performance. She was waiting for the system to do what it was supposed to do. The gate agent did not take the boarding pass. His name was stitched in small letters on the inside edge of his blazer lapel, visible only when he leaned forward to adjust the counter display. Ryan Collins. Senior shift badge clipped just below the seam. He straightened a small flower arrangement instead, corrected a stem that was already straight, then tapped the glass once more with his fingernail, eyes still down. Economy check-in is around the corner, Ryan said. No greeting, no eye contact. Evelyn did not move. She did not repeat herself. She rotated the boarding pass slightly, so the print faced him more clearly. Seat 1A was visible from where I stood. Ryan finally looked up. Not at the pass. At her. His gaze moved quickly, efficiently, like someone scanning luggage for size violations. Hair, coat, bag, shoes. He exhaled through his nose. A small sound, almost polite. That seat is part of Diamond Royal, he said. Please don't hold up the line. Behind her, the woman next in line shifted her weight. Expensive fur despite the controlled temperature. Two porters hovered at her sides with identical hard-shell luggage. One of them murmured her name under his breath as he adjusted his grip. Margaret Whitman. She rested one wrist on the velvet rope, pressing it down slightly, testing how much it would give. Evelyn placed her passport on the counter beside the boarding pass. She aligned the edges. Nothing overlapped. Scan it, she said. Ryan picked up the boarding pass using only the tips of his fingers. He flipped it face down without reading it. The gesture was quick, practiced. Then he slid it back toward her, using the edge of his nail, not his hand. This system glitches, he said. Fake passes happen. Margaret cleared her throat. Loud. Intentional. Ryan turned instantly. Margaret, he said, smiling now. We're just clearing a security issue. Security. The word sat there, without support. Margaret leaned closer, peering at Evelyn as if examining a stain on fabric. Is she dangerous? She asked. I'm late. Evelyn's hands stayed flat on the counter. She did not look back. She did not raise her voice. She did not step aside. Ryan reached for the boarding pass again. This time, he tore it. Not fast. Not dramatic. Controlled. Once down the middle. Then again. Smaller pieces. He dropped them into the trash bin beneath the counter. Paper landing on paper. There, Ryan said. Invalid now. No phones came up. No one spoke. The line stayed quiet. Systems like this train people when silence is safer. Evelyn picked up her passport. She did not look into the bin. She did not ask for a supervisor. She did not acknowledge Margaret, who had already stepped forward, assuming the space was now clear. She stepped away from the counter and walked past the velvet rope toward the economy line. Her pace did not change. As she passed me, she pulled her phone from her coat pocket. The screen lit her face briefly. No message preview. No visible reaction. Just one movement of her thumb. One press. Behind us, the Royal Class line began moving again. Ryan straightened the flower arrangement once more, then reached for the next boarding pass as if nothing had interrupted the flow. I stayed where I was. The screen above the counter refreshed, and for a moment, no one stepped forward. I did not follow her. I stayed where I was, just behind the velvet rope, watching the Royal Class line resume its shape. People stepped forward again, one by one, careful not to look at the space that had just been cleared. The counter moved. The flower arrangement stayed straight. From my position, I could still see the economy line begin to absorb her. It moved differently. The belts were scuffed. The floor marks were faded. The sound changed. Rolling bags collided instead of gliding. Voices were stacked instead of spacing themselves. She entered it without changing her pace. She didn't check the overhead monitors. She didn't turn back. At the economy counter, the agent on duty reached for her passport immediately. Her name appeared on the screen when the scanner beeped. Evelyn Carter. The agent's hand paused mid-motion, not long enough to be noticed by anyone behind her, long enough to register. The boarding information was populated line by line. Seat 1A. Class Royal. The agent glanced up once, then back down. Then she adjusted the scanner so it sat square with the edge of the counter. A small correction. Protective. "I can reprint," she said, voice low. Evelyn nodded. No emphasis. No relief. The printer whirred. Paper emerged. Economy. Middle seat. The agent slid it forward, then stopped herself and pulled it back to staple something unnecessary to the corner. Her eyes did not lift again. Evelyn accepted the paper, folded it once, not carefully, not roughly. Then she stepped aside. I watched the economy line continue to compress around her. People shifted bags. A child leaned against a suitcase. No one made space. No one objected when she took the last open spot near the belt post. The boarding announcement came soon after. Groups were called in order. The Royal Class passengers moved first, guided by staff who smiled without looking. I recognized Ryan Collins again, at the gate, posture reset, voice audible now. He laughed once at something said by the pilot beside him. The sound carried. When Group 5 was called, the economy line released in a stagger. Evelyn moved with it. She held her boarding pass out at chest height, not angled, not offered. Ryan took it this time. He scanned it quickly. The light turned green. He did not look up. "Back section," he said, pointing down the jet bridge with the same finger he had used on the glass. Evelyn stepped forward. At the threshold of the jet bridge, she slowed, just enough to remove her phone from her coat pocket, just enough to wake the screen. No typing, no scrolling. She pressed once, then let her hand fall back to her side as she disappeared into the tunnel. The gate display refreshed behind her. I saw it because I was still standing there. A line of text replaced the boarding status for a fraction of a second before cycling away. It was not a message meant for passengers. It was not styled for reassurance. Ownership verification pending. The jet bridge door closed. The rest of us boarded. Inside the cabin, the transition was immediate. The front section absorbed light, soft tones, quiet instructions. I saw Margaret Whitman already settled into 1A, shoes removed, feet placed where they expected to be. A glass waited at her side. Past the curtain, the aisle narrowed. The air changed. The pace did not. Evelyn was already seated when I reached my row, middle, near the lavatories. Her bag rested on the floor beneath the seat in front of her, strap folded inward. She did not adjust it when a cart passed. The doors closed. The aircraft pushed back. Engines spooled. The vibration traveled through the floor in stages, familiar and unremarkable. We began to taxi. Then we stopped. Not a jolt, not a brake, a pause. The engines idled. The cabin quieted in increments. People lifted their heads. Seatbelt signs stayed lit. The intercom crackled. The captain did not announce a delay, a procedural hold. From my seat, Evelyn was mostly hidden. Her head rose above the seatback. Only the top of her head was above the seatback. She remained still. Her phone lay face down on her tray table. The screen did not light again. Up front, movement began without sound. A flight attendant leaned into the cockpit, then stepped back, then leaned in again. No one explained. We did not taxi forward. We did not turn. We waited, suspended between gate and runway, while something outside the cabin adjusted itself. And for the first time since the boarding pass was torn, the system stopped pretending nothing had happened. The aircraft remained still, not at the gate, not on the runway. From my seat, the pause felt procedural. No alarms, no raised voices, just the absence of forward motion. The engines idled, the cabin lights held, seatbelts stayed fastened. A flight attendant leaned into the cockpit again. This time, she didn't return to the aisle right away. When she did, her pace had changed. Slower, deliberate. She did not make announcements. Up front, the curtain stayed closed. Minutes passed without explanation. People checked their phones, then stopped when nothing updated. A child asked a question that wasn't answered. A cart sat angled in the aisle, unattended. Then the intercom clicked. The captain did not apologize. He did not explain the cause. He said only that we had been instructed to return to the gate for a compliance matter. His voice sounded like someone reading a line he hadn't written out loud. The aircraft turned. As we taxied back, movement began at the front of the cabin. Crew stood. A uniformed man stepped into the aisle from near the cockpit. He flashed a badge at the nearest attendant, then kept walking. He stopped near the middle rows. "Ma'am," he said, addressing Evelyn without raising his voice, "I need to see your phone." She did not ask why. She did not stand. She slid the device across her tray table. The screen lit on contact. The man glanced once, then nodded and handed it back. "Thank you," he said. That was all. When we reached the gate, the doors did not open immediately. Through the window, I could see activity gathering on the jet bridge. 2 officers, a supervisor, someone holding a clipboard. The posture outside was different from before. Less performative, more precise. The door opened. Ryan Collins was the first to appear in the frame. He did not step onto the aircraft. He stood just outside it, speaking quickly to someone off to the side. His hands moved more than they had earlier. He pointed once toward the front of the cabin, then lowered his arm when the man beside him didn't follow the gesture. A uniformed officer stepped past him and onto the plane. "Mr. Collins," the officer said, voice even, "we need you to come with us." Ryan laughed once. A short sound. He glanced around as if looking for a familiar face to confirm this was temporary. "I was following protocol," he said. The words came out fast. "That passenger didn't have." The officer didn't interrupt. He didn't respond. He waited. Ryan's sentence ended on its own. The cuffs clicked softly, not loud enough to echo, just enough that the rows nearest the door could hear. Ryan's posture folded inward as he was guided back onto the jet bridge. No one clapped. No one recorded. From the front row, a voice rose. "This is ridiculous," Margaret Whitman said. She stood part way, then stopped when another uniform appeared beside her seat. "Ma'am," the officer said, "this seat is no longer available." "I paid for it," she said. The officer didn't argue. He looked past her. Evelyn stood then. Not abruptly, not slowly. She stepped into the aisle and waited until the officer turned. "That's my seat," she said. Margaret looked at her for the first time. The officer nodded. Margaret gathered her things in stages. Shoes first, bag second. She did not speak again as she was escorted forward and off the plane. Evelyn moved to 1A without comment. She sat. She placed her bag beside her feet instead of under the seat. The curtain remained open now. A man in a dark suit boarded next. He spoke briefly with the captain, then turned toward the cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "thank you for your patience. This aircraft is cleared for departure." No apology, no explanation. We departed. Once airborne, service resumed differently. Not warmer, just cleaner. The cart reached the middle rows sooner than expected. The flight attendants spoke less. Near the end of the flight, an announcement came through the cabin, not from the cockpit. It was brief. "My name is Evelyn Carter," the voice said. "I appreciate your cooperation today." The delay was necessary to correct a process that wasn't being followed. That was the only sentence she offered. For anyone still unsure what had happened, that was enough to understand. The person asked to wait had turned out to be the one who made the decision. When we landed, the exit was orderly. No rush, no lingering looks. Evelyn remained seated until the aisle cleared. She left without assistance, without an escort. I watched her disappear into the terminal, anonymous again. Outside, the system resumed its rhythm. Lines formed, screens refreshed. Procedures continued, but not the same way. If you like stories about quiet authority, systems exposed, and power revealed without noise,